Hello, everybody. This is Ina Coveney, your friendly neighborhood salary replacement expert. You can find me at Trailblazing Out of Corporate Life, which is a community of people just like you who are new entrepreneurs who want to start really living their dreams. Okay, so what I do is I help people who are professionals start a business on the side. Don't quit your job yet. Then replace your salary within a year so you can do whatever you want. And as you guys know, or you may not know, I run a program called Be Found, in which I guide those entrepreneurs to selecting the actual business plan that they want, the actual business offer that they want to put out there into the world, so that they don't change their mind 6 months later after they've gone through all this trouble to create a website, to create an online presence, and they're like, well, this is not what I wanted to do in the first place. I teach them all of this in the Be Found program so they can pick the right idea, and we create the website for them. And one of my graduates is Sylvette Martínez, and I have the pleasure, the honor of interviewing her today. And I really want to dive into her story. What makes her tick? She left her job 10 years ago. She has been she's the ultimate entrepreneur who has been through the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, and she's still here. And now she has a brand new website, and I want her to tell us all about her journey. Plus, she is a branding strategist, and I want her to teach us something about how to create a magnetic presence online. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mariely Sylvette. Hi, Mariely.
Ina. Hi, Ina, and hi to everybody here in the Trailblazing community.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for being here. For me, it's an honor to have a veteran in here to tell me, listen, because a lot of the people that I talk to, my audience, are people who are starting out. And there's all of this fear and trepidation about giving up something that has been so safe, so secure, such as their full-time job, to jump into something that they, in all honesty, they have no idea if it's going to work, if this is the thing that they want to do for the rest of their lives. And there's a lot of, I can't leave something that is so safe for something that I have no idea if it's going to work or not. So you've been there, and I want to know how this whole thing started. Take us back to the beginning.
Oh my God. It's a long, long story, but let's take it from a little bit further. I started in 2004 when I left my first job. Not my first job, but I was a marketing supervisor at this company, and I was there for 4 years. And I started feeling that there was no place for me to grow any further right in there. I knew my job from A to Z. You know, I knew everything I needed to know. I didn't want it my boss job, right? I didn't want to be a general manager there. So I was like, so I quit my job. But back then, I didn't have any tools inside me to be able to sustain a business. Right. So what I did is that I did a couple of freelancing jobs, but then after 6 months, I was back in corporate.
Yeah.
So I was there, and in 2007, the HR director, she told me, like, you should take these leadership trainings because I know that you want to be a trainer in the future, and you want to be a speaker, and you want to do all these things. And I was like, well, coming from you, I'll do it. So I took these leadership trainings back then. It was like a 6 months deal. And once I did that, it was like an awakening for me. Okay. That was the moment that I knew that I had to take action into what I wanted, because I had already passed like 3 or 4 years already.
Yeah.
So I started planning, and I started a small business first in baking. Okay.
No way. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, that was my very beginnings. And I started making quite some decent money on the side while I was still at my management job in a hotel. And I was doing that. And then I was finishing my master's. And at some point from 2008 to 2010, it started becoming really uncomfortable for me working like 12 hours a day, having no time for the things I wanted to do. And at some point, I remember this early in 2010, we were in a meeting discussing like the same old stories.
Mhm.
And then my supervisor asked us like to say what we had in our minds, and everybody commented. And then right there, I just said, "This is my 2 weeks notice." And everybody was like, what just happened here?
Wow. And you weren't planning on
No, I mean,
dropping this on them in that meeting.
no. But after listening, it was like, this is never going to change. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
same things we've been dealing with like for the whole 3 years I was there in that company. And I gave my notice.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
actually remember a similar point. I was not as brave as you, but the moment when I quit my job, I gave myself a 1 week. I was coming back from maternity leave, and I gave myself a 1 week grace period to really understand what I was coming back to, so that I could give it a
Mhm,
fair shot. And I was in a meeting where they had brought, while I was on maternity leave, they had brought a consultant to improve the process.
mhm.
And I was sitting in a meeting, and she's presenting the new process, and I look at it, I'm like, that's exactly the same process that I established here a year ago in a
Mm.
different team. And I looked around at everybody, and everybody was acting like this is the first time they've ever heard it. And I'm like,
Oh my God.
yeah, I'm not staying for this. This is not worth it to me. But
Exactly.
yeah, I remember that aha moment too. That is
Exactly.
crazy. So what happened then?
Well, so I started teaching some seminars with a partner that I met when I was taking my leadership program.
Mhm.
And I remember that I said, well, I just finished a master's in public relations. So what I'm going to do is going to do public relations on myself. So I wrote a press release
Nice.
and I sent it to the newspaper. And suddenly I received an email from someone really interested in what I wrote in the press release about this event. It was about law of attraction. It was a crazy seminar, but it was very nice thing.
Yeah.
But when the press release was published about the event that we were about to hold, it was of February. I received like 100 calls from people interested in this seminar.
Wow.
Plus, they told me they were going to send a journalist to cover the event, which she did. A journalist came, and she loved it so much that then she wrote like a review about the event, and she published it again. So I have all this publicity on my
Wow.
very first attempt. So I
Yeah.
was like, what have I been doing all my life? This is
Right.
what I'm supposed to be doing.
Nice.
So I did that, and I what I did is I started putting things together so I could make money, because I didn't have like a business established right away.
Mhm.
And I had to finish my research project for my master's.
Mhm.
So I started writing a column for this website. It was called examiner.com. And I started writing about visiting all these places in Puerto Rico, because I was coming from the hospitality industry. So I had some insights about what people wanted to know.
Mhm.
And I started visiting the island, being a local tourist, and writing these pieces.
Which,
And
by the
when
way, doing that in Puerto Rico seems like the most perfect place to do that in. So that's great.
it was great. It was really fun, and I learned a lot doing
Yeah.
it. And I met a lot of wonderful people as well. So I started receiving requests from people to show them the island. I started receiving requests from people to write on different magazines. I ended up becoming the editor of a magazine. I started receiving requests to speak at conferences. And at some point, um, this lady who owns a public relations firm that I wanted to work with for a long time to get some more experience into public relations, when she saw my writing, she said, you can write very well in Spanish and in English, so I need you. And that's how I got into public relations
Yeah.
back then. And I was on my own, and I used to She was my client, basically.
Yeah.
And I used to work for very great projects back then, and I gained a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And I was doing that like for 5 years
Yeah.
until the economy went down. And she called me one day to tell me, like, I'm not going to be able to hire you anymore because, I mean, it's very bad. I've lost many contracts with the government. And I'm like, well, it's okay. And I knew that was the moment that I had to make it on my own back again.
Yeah.
And I created a little website about teaching LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn seminars.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
and
I know from having worked on your website and having looked at your testimonials that you were awesome at. I mean, people were like seeking you out for career advice and for the LinkedIn profile, and people reporting really great results. So it seems to me so far that you were so good at so many things that you just one day decided, I think I'm just going to start, and opportunities just start to open up when you start to open up your calendar and open up your mind to other things that you could be
yeah.
doing. So far you've been a baker, you've been a public relations agent,
Mm-hmm.
you have
Mm-hmm.
been a writer, you have been like, so okay, help me understand, like, so far what is
Mm-hmm.
going through your mind, because I want everybody who's listening to this, they're starting to think about making the jump to their first business. And one thing that I
Mm-hmm.
hear a lot is, well, it's just that I don't know if that's the thing that I want to do forever, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to leave this really safe thing.
I
Right?
know.
What would you tell people, like, right now you've gone through many different iterations of being an entrepreneur, of being on your own? What would you
Mm-hmm.
tell that person about that thing they want to do right now, but it may not be the thing that they are into 5 years from now?
Yeah, that is true. So don't leave your job just yet,
Hmm.
because that's the thing that put a lot of pressure on me,
Mm.
and that made me do a lot of things which made me who I am. But I struggled a lot
Mm.
during my first years, even though I was doing all these public relations things and copy editing and all that. So I struggled a lot, and I needed to build a brand. So my my best advice would be to take action, to start something that you're really passionate about, and just go ahead and do it. Like, if you want it, because the things that I did were things that were very dear to my heart.
Hmm.
Like, when I started baking, it was like a therapy for me at the very beginning.
Yeah.
In fact, I did that for a friend, and then she couldn't do it. And then I felt so much peace when I came back to baking that I said, I think I'm going to do this for for a little bit.
Hmm.
And then when I started writing, it was something like, it was in my heart, and I couldn't stop myself from doing it. Like,
Yeah.
I need to write about this event. I need to write about this place. I need to go and visit this festival and then review it. And it was something like, I couldn't hold myself from doing
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
that's what you need to do. And those things were the ones that opened the opportunities to the next things, because I was so passionate doing them that I was doing it very well. And people started seeing and noticing, like, this girl, I mean, there's something about her, I mean.
Yeah.
So that's what got me into all these opportunities. But then I needed to be strategic, right? I needed
Hmm.
to start thinking long term, because I didn't want to be self-employed all of my life. I
Yeah.
wanted to build business.
Yeah.
So I started working on my brand. I decided, well, from all these things that I can do, what is the thing that I can do very, very well, and I see myself doing, like, for the next 10 years or more?
Yeah.
And I started choosing. I'm into public relations. I'm good with communications, with marketing, branding, and all that. I can help people, build their brands.
Hmm.
And I started with LinkedIn, and then I began expanding. Like, yes, so it's not enough to have a good brand on LinkedIn. Let's work your social media presence.
Hmm.
Let's work with your marketing materials. Let's see your logo. Let's see your website. I don't do websites, though. That's
Hmm.
your job.
Hmm.
But I can tell, like, yeah, this doesn't look professional. This not communicating what you want to communicate to your audience. So that's those kind of things, you need to choose.
Can I ask you? So, the person who's just wants to start their business, they just heard you say, listen, don't quit your job yet, but
Mm-hmm.
start doing something. If
Mm-hmm.
you, Marieli, had kept your job while trying the baking and then trying the public relations and then trying, what you're saying is would have relieved some of the pressure, but you still would have gone through the motions of trying things out, of checking it out to see if this is what you want. So once you decided, that you actually have an eye for branding, you've been doing this for so long that you know what
Mm-hmm.
looks good and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So how does somebody who's just starting out think about creating a brand? Because they're not thinking of themselves as a brand yet. They're
Mm-hmm.
thinking of themselves as, I'm just going to try things out. I'm a dabbler. I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
see if there's anything to this. So what would be a like good advice to people who are starting out? They're just dabbling in this, but branding is still really important, because if
Mm-hmm.
you hadn't taken those steps, actually, like write that press release, right? Who of
Mm-hmm.
us who haven't really started our businesses would think about writing a press release and really putting ourselves out there into the world? You did that, which was very, very brave, but very smart, because now the world knew you as that thing. And that's where you started
Mm-hmm.
getting all the calls and you started to get the attention of people. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody's starting out and they're thinking, maybe I need to wait 2 years until I know what I want and start developing a brand.
Mm-hmm. No, not really. I would recommend to to share your ideas with someone who can help you be strategic and follow a path, even though if you're trying just things to see if they work, but be more intentional about those
Mhm.
things. Like probably if when I started my baking business, it was an accident. I mean,
Mhm.
it
Right.
was an accident. But then, like a couple of years later, I started getting into business seminars to know what I was doing, to, put a little bit of structure in there. And, it was the difference between the business and a hobby or
Mhm.
an expensive hobby.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It could be.
So tell me about putting yourself out there as a
Mm-hmm.
brand. What would you
Mm-hmm.
say are the things that, I mean, I could say, like, well, I made my own website, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks fine. That's my brand. I'm done creating a brand. Like,
No.
what do you think are like the check mark items? Right? I'm not even talking like assets. I'm not even talking like logo. I'm talking like about your brand that people should be aware of and say, okay, I'm working on my brand now.
Yeah.
It's not just the website, it's not just the logo, it's what?
Well, you should check out, first of all, what you think you are, right? Who you are as a person or as a professional in what you offer other people.
Hmm.
But also, you need to check how others perceive you,
Hmm.
because probably there's a dissonance there.
Yeah.
Probably they perceive you whole lot bigger than what you perceive about yourself.
Hmm.
Or probably it's different. Probably they don't see it, what you think you're communicating to the world. So I think that exercise is very important, to owning what is your genius, asking people what they think you're very good at. That's very powerful exercise, because sometimes our own genius, we're not able to recognize it
Right.
because it's so second nature to us,
Hmm.
that we don't see it anymore. And
Yeah.
then people tell us, oh, you're such a good listener, and you're so good counselor, you're such a good coach, and or you're writing, oh my god, or whatever. So then you start seeing, like, like 3 people just told me I'm very good at this, and I haven't ever thought about it.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
the experience that others have about you. Like, if somebody asks me or whomever, what is Ina like? Or who's Ina? What she's good at? And people will say, oh, she's a great salary replacement expert, or
Hmm.
she's a good website developer.
Hmm.
Those are the 2 things that come to my mind from my experience throughout all of this. And she's a great
Right.
marketer as well, because I mean, all you do, and whenever I see Ina, I get the same experience from her.
Hmm.
Right? Even in a live, when you write, even when I receive your email, I can hear your voice instead of my head.
That's so cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you do, even if it's writing an email that people receive once a week,
Mhm.
or you create a Facebook page because you're just starting out, that the message comes across and people can actually see, this is Marieli, this is Carmen, or whomever.
Yeah, I
That's
can totally see that, especially when I was starting out. I had a big blind spot when it
mm-hmm,
came to that, because it is in. I've been out of my job for 2 years now. I started my business 8 years ago when my son, was first born.
mm,
And when I first started, I had a website, but I didn't really have a brand. I
mm-hmm,
was a dime a dozen WordPress developer, right?
mm-hmm,
I had a website where I put nice pictures of myself, right?
uh-huh,
But that I was not aware of what a brand was.
mm-hmm,
Anybody could have hired any other WordPress developer at the time and they would have gotten exactly the same thing. I didn't know what my brand was until I really started delving more into building an audience and getting that feedback and asking other people, what do you think of when you think of me? And still, it's something that I work on like
mm-hmm,
every
all the
day
time. Mm-hmm,
is making sure that everything is consistent. And there's sometimes I botch it because it's so
mm-hmm,
hard to see it. So can you help me understand? Because I've actually worked with branding strategists
mm-hmm,
before because
mm-hmm,
I felt like I needed that. Like I had that huge blind spot. And I want to
mm-hmm,
put myself out there as a professional, right? And I want people to see consistency and to see that this is a business. This is not
mm-hmm.
just like a little blogging project that I started
Exactly.
yesterday, right? I want them to see this is a serious enterprise. So when people feel like, if we're making them realize right now that, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I have no idea how people would perceive me and what my brand would be. What is it like to work with someone like you?
Well, it's a very, let me see how I say this in English. It's an introspection process
Hmm.
because I'm a coach as well. So I make people reflect about who they are, what their talents and abilities are, um, what they see themselves doing for a long time, and the people that they want to work with,
Hmm.
right? The problems they want to solve. All of this process is very important to any branding, starting a branding on your own, right?
Right.
So because what I see is that many people are so confused right now. We live in a world that everybody, it's not just me or you, everybody is like multi-talented, right?
Right. Right.
Everybody have so many passions in their bucket and they want to like work with them all.
Right.
And sometimes it's they cannot see how they can make it work, all of those things. And well, and they think like they need different companies
Hmm.
and they start complicating themselves.
Hmm.
And what I do is like, well, but if you brand yourself, you are the brand, you can do all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like different projects, like I have Pod Queens Latinas and
Hmm.
yeah, I'm branding consultant and all of those things. But it's at the end, it's Marieli Sylvette who does all that.
Right.
So that is the thing. I take them through that introspection so they can finally spot their genius
Hmm.
and we can start developing from there what it's going to look like, their social presence, the colors that are going to communicate that brand, the kind of pictures they want to use throughout their social media, what
Yeah.
kind of posts are they putting there, just like inspirational quotes, or are you
Hmm.
putting some valuable content that your audience will devour, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah. No.
crave.
And I love that. That's one kind of help
Mm-hmm.
that I know that a lot of people are going to need,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to how do you put yourself out there in multiple outlets, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just recently talked to someone who asked me like, how do you put your YouTube videos on a podcast, or how do you take your podcast and put
Mm-hmm.
it on a YouTube video? And I told her, actually, I don't just do that. I take
Mm-hmm.
my podcast and I
Mm-hmm.
put it on Facebook Live, right? Because that's how I record it. I take that video, I put it on YouTube. I take
Mm-hmm.
that YouTube and I put it in my blog, right? And if I had more time, just a little bit more time, just like 30 seconds more in my day, I would be
Uh-huh.
able to put just like an audiogram of it on Instagram. So right there, I'm like multi-purposing all of that stuff. And for it to look consistent, it's something that takes self-awareness. So I love it that you say, like, it starts with an introspection project, because a process, because
Mhm.
you can't just get a new client and you tell them this is what your brand is going to be and these are the things you need to do, right?
Yep.
And I've been there before where I'm like, I need help with
Mhm.
the introspection piece. You can't just send me off to a beach somewhere for 3 hours to really figure out who I am. Is
Mhm.
this process of talking, and I've invested like really really good money in getting people to help me figure that out, right?
Mhm.
It's not all been trial and error. It's getting help from people like you who are good at this to
Mhm.
tell me what are the things that I should be answering and thinking about to get this done. So if there's somebody out there, they're
Mhm.
thinking about starting their business, okay?
Mhm.
And they think to themselves, you know what? I want my branding to be tight.
Mhm.
I want it to be like super sharp.
Mhm.
What would you say, is the first thing you want them to do? Like, what is their first step to getting that done? And by the way, I will say the second step is going to be get yourself a coach. Get yourself somebody who's going to walk you through this. But I want to give them one step that is going to get them closer to feeling prepared to work with you, so that they can call you and be like, I am ready for this. What do you need that ideal client to know to do before they call you?
I think a very good exercise that can be the very first step is creating a list of all your talents, sitting down and writing down everything that you think that you're good at, or at least better than most people, right? Like, I'm very good at drawing, I'm just making examples, or at baking or whatever, taking great pictures, whatever it is, right? Make a list as long as you can, and then, start selecting which ones do you think that you can build a business about,
Mhm.
right? The ones that you feel more excited about. And that would be a great first step that would give any coach material to work with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, um, give me one last piece of advice that
Mhm.
you have for anybody who's listening to you. They loved your story. They're like, she's done so much, right? She put herself out there. She was so brave, right? I want to be her when I grow up. I want to be fearless and I want to get out there and put my brand out there. What do you say to them who are hesitating because they haven't really gotten it all figured out?
Well, let me tell you something. When I did this, I wasn't fearless. I was just I was
The fear
just
was there.
brave. But yeah, completely, totally. Every time I published an article in the very beginning, it was like somebody's gonna yell, somebody's gonna say something. But think about, what's the worst that could happen?
Mm,
What I mean, the other day I was helping a client who, she wrote an opinion piece, right? And her husband told her, like, you should send it to the newspaper.
mm.
And when I read it, I'm like, this is very good, but you need to work on the introduction. So she changed it, and then she said, like, no, I'm gonna use this for Facebook. I don't mean to say. I'm like, send it. This is really good. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Long story short was that she received immediate response from the newspaper, one of the main local newspapers, and she got published right away that same day in the online platform. So, what's the worst that could happen, right?
I love that. Like that, I'm just gonna tattoo that somewhere. What's the worst that can happen? So, Marieli, you just published your brand new website. I wanted to invite everybody to go see it, marielisilvet.net, and we'll attach it to this live. But if you can see
Mhm.
us, if you can hear us, you probably have her name in the title of this video, so you know exactly how to spell it,
Yeah.
marielisilvet.net. So go and check it out. Congratulations on your brand new site. So, how else can people
Thank you.
contact you? How can people reach out and tell you how much they love this interview and they must work with you?
Well, I
On
have a little gift that I want to give them. It's right in my it's right in my website. They can go to marielisilvet.net, just like my name, marielisilvet.net Power Moves. And that is a PDF that I've created with 5 power moves that can help you be seen and build your authority. So my work goes beyond what your online presence, because I feel that to build your authority and your brand, you need to be seen in the media, you need to be seen speaking at big conference, in front of groups. You obviously will start small, like I did. I started doing like workshops with 3 people, right? We all have done that.
Yeah.
But then I kept on going and building my brand until I'm speaking in front of large audiences and big conferences, right? So I invite you to take that, grab that. And from there, I mean, you will receive an email from myself and we'll be connected. And there's a link so you can schedule a call with me. You can talk to me and we can have like a 20-minute discovery session to see if we are a good fit to work together, and I can help you build your brand, a magnetic brand.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and telling us your story. And now everybody knows, go to marielysylvette.net and get in touch and download those power moves. Thank you so much, Mariely. Congratulations on your new site and all the best in your business.
Thank you. I mean, it wouldn't have been possible without your help. I needed someone who could who could create something amazing, and I mean, I knew you would be the person that could help me, and everybody loved it. I mean, I want you to see the comments on my Facebook page, Mariely Sylvette Branding Consultant. I mean, the comments are crazy. I mean, everybody loves it. So,
oh my God, that makes
so
me
much.
so happy. Thank you so much. You were a star. Thank you, Mariely, for doing this. This has been a treat, and we will be posting this everywhere on YouTube. We're going to be posting this everywhere. You guys, publicity, huge. Get on that. Mariely can help you with this too. Thank you so much,
Ina.
Mariely.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Hey there! Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you just saw and you want more of that, subscribe to the channel right here. Also, there's another video that I think you should watch. And one more thing, did you know that there is a podcast? Just search for it, Trailblazing Out of Corporate Life with Ina Coveney, but you have to spell Coveney right. It ends in E-Y. I'll see you there.